Howdy, I'm Kenton Romero. I'm a student worker here at HPRC, and today I'm going to talk to y'all about Grace and how to access our Grace cluster and to start using our high performance computing resources here at A&M. The first step that you're going to want to do is make sure that you're either using A&M's Wi-Fi, or if you're off campus, you will need to set up the virtual private network so you can actually have access to all of these things. So who already has access to either A&M's Wi-Fi or to the A&M VPN right now? If you do not, I highly recommend that you click on this link right now and start getting that set up so you can follow along with the rest of the presentation. So I'm going to explain how to access Grace resources right now, and then together we will practice doing this on our own as well. So the first step is you're either going to want to go to our home webpage and see the drop-down menu and click on the Grace portal. Or alternatively, you can go to portal.hprc.tamu.edu and it'll give you the option to pick Grace. So does anybody not have access to the resources right now? Everybody's okay. Can y'all like give me a thumbs up or something if you can, if you have access to the VPN, so I can make sure that you can follow along with everything that we're doing right now. It should be a Zoom feature. Oh, beautiful. I'm seeing them coming up right now. Yes. Josh W., are you having issues? Anyone else having issues? Okay, I will move on. So you can access the portal through there, and then majority of your work you're going to be doing through the shell. This is also called the terminal or the command line. You can go to the portal, do the little drop-down menu for the clusters, and just click Grace Shell Access. So now I'm going to show you myself on how to access these things. Follow either one of these links and just make sure, we're going to make sure that everybody has access to the terminal before we move on. You clicked on the portal link. This is the menu that you're going to be shown. Alternatively, if you go to our website, here's this little drop-down menu, portal, just the Grace portal. You'll need to sign in. And here you are. From there, just clusters, Grace Shell Access, and that should get you into the command line. Again, it's going to ask you to type in your password. It may look like that you're not typing anything, but it just hides it. So you are typing, be confident in typing your password and just press enter. You're going to need to make sure you have dual authenticator ready. You can do it with the app or the phone call. Just select and you'll get the notification. So I'm going to go over it one more time. So to access Grace, make sure you have the VPN set up, two-factor authentication, go to our website, little drop-down menu, click the Grace portal, and then you're going to see the other little drop-down menu in the cluster section and just do shell access. And you should be able to log in the same way that I have right here. So once you have access to that, I'm going to show y'all how to see and manage your file systems that you have access to on the clusters. So today's the Grace cluster, and on Grace you will have access to both a home directory and a Scratch directory. Your home directory, it's regularly backed up. You are limited to only 10 gigabytes of space and 10,000 files. That space limit and file limit is what we call your quota. Your quota in your home directory cannot be increased. However, in your Scratch directory, it can be increased. So moving on to your Scratch directory, this is shared between both the Faster and Grace clusters. And you have a limit of up to 1 terabyte and a file limit of 250,000. So keep in mind that your Scratch directory will not be backed up, and you are responsible for backing up any data, research information, research workflows, or anything you have in your Scratch directory. You are responsible for backing that up yourself. You also have the option to increase the space in Scratch and your file limit in Scratch. You will need to request that either through our online portal or via email. I will show you shortly how you can make a request through our portal, which is what we highly recommend. So the first step is we're gonna see your quotas and through our dashboard. If you go back to the same portal for Grace, there's going to be another drop-down menu in dashboards. Here you can click the Grace dashboard, and it might take a few seconds to load, but it will show all your disk quotas and directories the same way that it showed earlier. If you're in any shared directories, i.e. you might be in a group that has a shared directory, you will also see those shared directories there along with its individual storage limits and file usage limits. So now y'all will go and look for yourself, see what directories y'all have access to, and also compare what you see on the dashboard with what you have in the command line. So first things first, to check the Grace dashboard. Here you will have a lot of helpful information. We will talk about your accounts later on today. You can also submit jobs from here. It will take a few seconds to load. In the meantime, I will show you all how to check on the command line. If you saw earlier, we have this show quota command. This is going to allow you to see what disks you have available and their file limits. As you can see, I also have a home directory and a Scratch directory. I have the default 10 gigabyte and 1 terabyte limits on here, and the default 10,000 and 250,000 file limit. You can see that I'm in some shared directories, so these also pop up here, and it has its own file usage and disk usage as well, and its own limits that don't interact with the other ones. So this is what the dashboard should look like. Again, it's going to show all your disk quotas right here. Let me also show you real quick how you can request for a quota increase. Right here, if you ever reach any of your limits, you can request for a quota increase right here. We highly recommend to do it through this way. It typically lasts much longer. They'll ask you a few questions and you will have to answer all these things to complete the quota request. Next, we're going to talk about how to access your software on our systems. So the Grace cluster has a lot of different softwares that you can use for a variety of different research. So you can check for instructions on how to use these softwares on our knowledge base. Also, if you're curious on what softwares we have available, you can check hprc.tamu.edu and go to our software page and to Grace specifically. And we will have all the software modules available for you to use there. Keep in mind, if you want to use any licenses, you'll have to contact us, and you know who you are if you're using a license. Alternatively, if we do not have the software that you need, you can try to install the software yourself is the first option. You would install the software in your home or Scratch directory. However, keep in mind that when you're using our systems, you do not have sudo permissions. So you will not be able to use the sudo command when installing the software. Excuse me. If you do need to use sudo and you have no other workaround to install that software, you can ask the HPRC staff to download that software for you. That typically might take a bit of time, but we can get that done or help you look for alternatives. So to access our software, we use a module systems. Grace uses a software hierarchy. So a lot of softwares are very complex and they require a lot of different compilers, libraries, and dependencies. So instead of having all the softwares simultaneously installed, we use a module system so we can pick and choose which softwares we want to have access to and be available to us. In the command line, you'll be able to use module avail, and that will show all the softwares that are available to you. Prior to loading a specific software, you're going to need to load the specific compilers for that software. And after you load those compilers, you can do module avail again to double check that the software that you need is still available after loading those compilers. Then it would be to load the actual software you want to use. In this case, we're using the example of PyTorch. And after that's loaded, you can do module list. This can be very complicated, so we encourage you to check out our YouTube, where we actually have a video specifically explaining how the hierarchical module system works on Grace. Once you've loaded those modules, you can use module list. We will also go over an example together. So don't worry if you're a little bit lost. So with these modules, you'll need to make sure you have the correct tool chains for each of these softwares. The tool chains are groups of compilers and libraries that are required for the software to run properly. And if you're using multiple softwares, for them to be compatible, they may need to use the same tool chain. If you're not sure about what tool chains are available or what softwares are available, you can use the command module spider and whatever software or tool chain you're looking for, and that will populate the different tool chains and softwares that we have available on our clusters. Also, if you already know the specific toolchain you want or the specific software you want, again, you can use module spider space and then the specific software and version, and it'll tell you what compilers that you need to load beforehand. There's also the module purge command. So if you've loaded modules, you can reset it and start from no modules loaded. So now we're going to do an activity actually practicing how to do all these things, since this was a lot. You're going to need the module load command and module purge. As we talked about earlier, you're going to need to search for these things. So with the OpenMPI, use the module spider command, and that's going to show you which compilers need to be loaded to be able to use OpenMPI and the specific version of OpenMPI. After we load those things, you can check what's been loaded with the module list command. So I can start going over the first step. So we want OpenMPI /4.1.4. So let me go back here. Let me click clusters and open the shell access one more time. So I'm going to use the command module spider and search up OpenMPI /4.1.4. Oops, typo. All right, here it looks like we do have 4.1.4. Here it shows the different compilers that are able to work and are compatible with this version. So you can see that you need to load all the modules in any one line. So sometimes instead of it just saying GCC and the version, it might say that, and right next to it will have another module you need to load. So simply you just load everything in that one line. I do module load, and I can just copy and paste this one line right here. I can use either line. So depending on what other softwares you use, you might prefer to use the 12.2 version instead of 11.3. Again, if you're unsure, the HPRC help desk will be more than happy to help you figure out and resolve those issues. I'm going to use the module list command so I can double check that my module is loaded. Here you can see that it is. You might see a couple extra modules here. So Grace will load some dependencies that are needed. So that's why you see those. Let's see. Now that we check what's been loaded, we still have not loaded OpenMPI. So now we can just do module load in the OpenMPI version. Again, module list, and we can see a lot more dependencies were also installed, but here is the OpenMPI that we are looking for. Once we are done, module purge. We can list it out again. We see we have no more modules loaded. So once you found a software that you want to use, the workflow will be module spider in that software. Once you do the module spider, you will load all the dependencies. After loading those dependencies, you will be able to load the actual software, and it should be available for you to use. So we have already gone over how you need to make sure you're on the campus network. You can access our clusters by logging into the portal, you know how to get which softwares you want to use. And now you've already been able to do this on your personal computers. So what's the point of doing this on our systems? Well, the benefit of using high performance computing is now instead of running those softwares locally on your own system, you can run those softwares on our supercomputers. So it'll be much faster. It can run in the background. You don't have to have your computer on the whole time. You'll be able to access much more computing power by instead of just using your laptop's resources, you get access to multiple clusters that can run all your software and research problems. So we have kind of two systems. Currently, you're in the login nodes. These are kind of testing nodes for you to make sure everything works. However, once you actually want to submit jobs that you know work to run in the background on our systems, you will start using our compute nodes. So these compute nodes are a shared resource among everyone who uses HPRC. And because of that, you're going to be charged service units depending on how much CPUs, memory, and time that your jobs consume while running. To manage all this thing, we use a job managing system called Slurm. To access Slurm, you will submit job files. So we will quickly talk about job files later on in this presentation. And those job files will have all the parameters to specify how many compute nodes you want to use, exactly what configuration you want your resources to be, and then you will tell it what softwares to use and how to use it, i.e. running your program. So before you can run your jobs, you need to make sure you have enough service units to run those jobs. So here, if you go back to the command line, you can use the My Project command, and this will show you all the different accounts you have and how many SUs you have available to use for each of those accounts. When submitting a job file, if you don't specify which account to use in the file, it'll use your default account. And if you want, you can specify which account to use to be your default. You may have your personal account, which should, for everyone, start out with 5,000 SUs. You may also have shared accounts if you're on group projects or have a shared account with your PI. So those might be some cases where you have multiple accounts. And you may want to set whichever the default account is. Of course, you can run the My Project -H to see more options, and our knowledge base also contains a lot more helpful information, such as if you need to transfer any SUs to other accounts and whatnot. Next, you can see the SUs for yourself in the Grace dashboard. So if you don't want to use the command line, this is another option that you can use. So now I would like y'all to all use the command line and do the My Project command. And just see what you have there. And then next, double check with the dashboard and see that you have the same information there. So here I am back in the shell that I accessed through the portal. I will clear the page just so I have a nice clean terminal. View My Project. Here you can see I have two accounts. One's from last year and the next one's from this year. If y'all are all new users, you should have 2024 for your fiscal year. And you can see which one's your default. You can see that right now my old account is currently my default. And maybe I should run the command to change my new account to my default. All right, my new account is now my default account. Alternatively, you can check in your dashboard, and you can also set your default this way. It'll just run the command for you in the background. If you have 0 SUs in your account, you will not be able to submit a job. So yes, keep that in mind. You can also access our knowledge base to to check how much each job may cost, because it can get a little bit convoluted, the pricing for all this. All right, so what is a job? What is all this stuff about talking a job? How do you actually use our resources on HPC? So that's going to be through a job file, a job script. Sometimes it's called an SBatch file as well, because you write a lot of your commands with this SBatch in the front to specify the parameters for the job scheduler. Keep in mind that the single hash is not a comment, but the double hashes are comments. So sometimes when you're seeing example job files for optional job specifications, they might have double hashes there. But if you want to use that that option, make sure you only have a single hash. The top half where it says SBatch, those are the parameters for your job. So you can specify what you want your job name to be, how long you want it to run. The end task will be how many CPUs you have allocated to you, and the memory will be how much memory you want your job to use or have access to, excuse me. You can also specify the name of your output file. As you can see here in the very last command on the necessary job specifications, stdout.%j. %j is going to be your job number. So whenever you submit a job, you're going to be assigned a number for that job. And wherever you submit from, your output file will be created there. And this output file is a output file will have the terminal right there, all the output from the terminal. On the bottom half, you'll be able to see that this is where you're going to set up your environment for your job. So the same way that you always have to load your software on the login nodes, you're going to want to have you're going to want to set up the software in the same way with those modules. After that, you'll be able to run your program. And this is going to be run on the compute nodes, not the login nodes. And for the compute nodes, you'll be able to have access to a lot more resources. So we're going to make a job file for ourselves. Before we do that, I'm going to give a brief overview on how to move, create, and edit files, either from the portal itself or from the shell access. So if you want to use the portal, you're going to go to Files, go to Home Directory, and you should be able to see that page. From there, you can navigate which directory you want to go into. We're gonna want everyone to go into this directory because we're gonna have an example job file for you to use in the activity later on. From here, you're gonna want to copy that job file from the portal. Very intuitive. You're gonna just click the different buttons there, make sure that the example job file is selected. And then you can edit the file from the terminal or from the portal itself with the edit button. So once you have a job file, it's very simple to submit. You will just do the sbatch command and the file name. From there, it'll tell you how much the file costs, how much that job's gonna how many resources that job's going to use, such as your SUs. If you're worried about your job taking too long or using more SUs than you want, you can set time limits. If your job finishes before the time limit is up, you will be refunded for the SUs that you did not get, that you did not actually use. So you will be refunded for time if your job ends early. Check the status of your job. You're going to use the SQ command, and you're going to have to specify your net ID in that command as well, because if you don't, you will see every single person's job that is on the cluster. Here are some helpful commands to manage your job, to look at your job, see what you've run, and to kill the job, such as the scancel one. If you have any questions about any of these commands, feel free to say it in the chat or raise your hand. I'll give you a few seconds to look at this. Okay, now for y'all to do this yourselves. I'm gonna want y'all to navigate to this Scratch directory, this specific Scratch directory. You're gonna need to copy the Hello World job into your home directory. So this files is an example job file that we created that everybody should be able to access and present for themselves, or submit for themselves, to make sure that y'all understand what's happening. After that, you will submit it with the SBatch, and then you can check that it's running with the SQ. It should be a very simple job file. After, I'm going to give you all a few moments to look at it. After that, I'll go over it myself as well. And since we have some extra time, I'll also show you what happens when you change some of the parameters and different ways that we can change the job file for the task that you'd like to do. All right, Kelsey asked, why would somebody use Faster versus Grace or Terra for different computing jobs? So Grace, Faster, and Terra both have different architectures. So depending on what kind of research you're doing or what kind of jobs you're doing, you might want those different architectures. So actually, later on in the presentation, I will talk about how Grace is configured. It's 48 cores, I think like 360 gigabytes of memory. So these different systems have different configurations that might be more beneficial for your jobs and whatnot. You might want to try on different systems to see if maybe your research applications might perform better on one system versus another. So I'm going to start showing y'all how to navigate to this directory. All right, change directory. Leave the Scratch/training. Yeah, the dashboard's a lot more intuitive than using the command line. However, the command line will be a lot faster in that you can go straight to where you want to go. So in this case, we're going to do the hello world.job. If you double click, it'll show you the job itself. So if you want to double check what you're copying, you can do that first. But for now, I know what I want. So I have this checked, and then I'm going to make a copy. So I'm going to copy this to my home directory. Hello World job is now here in my home directory. Right here. Yeah, I got a lot in here, so. From there, I'm now gonna submit with sbatch. Gonna go back to here, shell access, which is the same command line terminal. I'm gonna do ls and double check that I have my hello world.job right there. Press enter. All right. Seems my requested SUs will be 1.5, and that is now my balance. SU. Yeah, the biggest hurdle is getting access to the portal. And after that, you can you'll be able to find your job and just submit it.
I have access to the portal. It's more like we have the exact slides that you have somewhere, because I have something from January and I have a hard time following.
Yes, we will be posting the slides, I believe. Someone can confirm that in the chat for me. But yeah, I will I will go back to the command line and I will go over everything that we've went over real quickly. So very simple. If you're in the portal, you'll be able to do Grace shell access. Here, type in your password and do your dual authentication. So we started out the presentation by talking about our disk usage. You can see this here, and that again is with the show quota command. After that, we talked about checking your accounts and your balance. So after you know that you have enough storage and enough file space, you're going to want to check that you have enough SUs. So with the My Project command, you can check the different accounts you have. From there, we're going to want to run a job. So as you can see, I have the job file hello world.job, and this is the contents of that job file right here. This job will allocate one CPU with 2 GB of memory, and it will just create the file example output.txt, and after that it'll sleep for 60 seconds. So now that I know what the job's going to do, I can just do sbatch and do hello world.job, and it's going to tell me that it is running. So it's going to sleep for 60 seconds. So I'm going to try to catch it and see if it is running or if it already finished with the sq command. With the sq command, we can see that the state is it's running right now. It is using one CPU and it is on one node. So I allocated 1.5 hours of CPU time, but you can see that I have it sleep for 60 seconds and that this echo command should not take very long. So you can see that it's still running. I actually want to cancel it because I don't need all that time. And I do SQ again, and I no longer have any jobs running there. However, when I do ls, we can see the output files of the jobs that I just ran. So you can see right here, this std out dot the job number. So that's the same job number. I can open that to see what was running on, oops, what was running. So it's saying a Slurm step error, but that's because I canceled the job. And you can see here that I canceled the job, and that's just a log for the job. We can also see that inside the job file, which I will show one more time, we told it to, this is the job file right here. We told it to echo the hello world and just create a text item. So I'm going to double check. I'm going to look what's inside that text, and it says hello world, exactly how the job file was told to do. So when your job completes, you should be able to check the outputs. So that cat command that I was doing, that was just displaying what the text was inside of that file. If you saw in the SQ, it showed a partition. These are the different partitions. If your jobs are a shorter amount of time, you will get a short partition, and those short partitions will receive more priority. It's easier to allocate jobs allocate compute nodes for smaller jobs. So we recommend to try to make sure your jobs follow these partitions so they get used faster, since again, the compute nodes are a shared resource. So this is the Grace hardware. It was asked earlier the differences between Faster, Terra, and Grace, and that's just going to be the hardware itself. We have 5 login nodes, 800 nodes with 384 gigabytes of memory. If you have jobs that you want to use graphics cards or GPUs, we also have some GPU nodes available. Keep in mind, it's very limited on the number of GPU nodes that we have, so there may be some high demand on usage for that, so you might experience longer queue times. Alternatively, if you need a large amount of memory, we have 3 terabyte memory nodes. So that is not storage, this is memory. And these are with 80 cores. And again, we only have 8 nodes of that configuration as well. I'm gonna skip the pop quiz since we have very little time. If you need help, you can check out our FAQ, check out our knowledge base. There is a search bar. So if you need help with anything, I would recommend to search there. It might be a very simple answer that you're looking for. If it's a bigger issue than that, feel free to email us at help@hprc.tamu.edu, and we will be able to help you with any issues that you may be experiencing. Again, YouTube is a great resource also. It'll walk you through all the steps like I went over here, and you're able to pause, take it as whatever pace you'd like to take it, or go faster than this. And again, our knowledge base has a plethora of helpful information.